On this episode of AV Week, using Zoom in the courtroom, taking another look at Resimercial in the era of working from home. And Midwich unveils a global deployment of Zoom's hardware as a service. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 469, recorded Friday, August 14th, 2020. Pots of Money.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment, and by FSR.
This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered for the week, first and foremost, my buddy and pal and the host of AV Social, Ms. Dawn Mead. AV Dawn, how are you, ma'am?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Also with us is Clint Hoffman. Clint is the president of Kramer for US, but also he is the supplier of my Rook coffee. How are you, sir?
Doing great, thank you.
And last but not least, a young lady who is not a stranger to these parts, but I want to say that this is the first time I've had you on AV Week. I could be wrong about that.
It might be the second.
Might be the second. Heather Sidorowicz from Southtown AV. Welcome, ma'am.
It is great to be here.
Hey, I had Heather on my show, so.
You know what? It's Friday. It's, almost it's the middle of August. And here in St. Louis, I don't think it's topped 90, which is really odd for us. It's
That's
typically
right. In Buffalo, New York, it is over 90 today.
Wow. Yeah, it's been very mild for August, which scares the bejesus out of me usually, because that means we're going to get 20 feet of snow in the winter. So, whatever. All right, first story comes to us from our friends over at AV Magazine, AV Network, not AV Magazine, that's a different story. Midwich is launching the global hardware as a service with Poly. Couple things here. Midwich owns Starin Marketing. We've got a couple of friends that work over there, Melissa Dillman, and of course, Chris Netto, Mr. AV in the AM. So Starin is also launching this as well. And the one thing about this is, so this is Zoom's hardware as a service, Zoom's HAAS system. And what the one thing about this that's unique is the fact that this is on a global scale. So it's not that, another manufacturer, another distributor can't come up with this, but Midwich has the position here of being able to do this globally. And Dawn, I want to start with you on this because as someone who works for a company that we cannot name, but they have offices all over the world, how important is it to have somebody like this? And granted, they don't sell directly to you, but it would be the same. It would be like buying the same widget from several integrators, but it's the same system because the back end is put together by the same people.
Right. It's very important. One of the whole reasons that I started with the company that I can't name, that they brought me on board as an AV architect was because, we're this global entity with sectors and divisions and buildings and campuses all over the world. But it's very piecemeal as to what kind of equipment you're getting and what kind of support you're getting based on what's local. And so they brought in myself and a few others to try to standardize that across, the entire enterprise. When you have an offering like this that goes global, that allows someone with a company like mine or with a presence like mine to go out and look at something as a solution, not just here where I'm located, but that can be replicable across the planet fairly easily, that's a game changer. I mean, sure, we can get this manufacturer A or manufacturer B and buy the same products from different integrators all around the planet, but to get the same package, the same integrated thing, I think it's really beneficial. My own organization might be a little too big to try to deal with recurring contracts and things like that, but the whole idea of as a service and being able to do things under operational expenses as opposed to the capital expenses, that in itself is a game changer. And I think a lot of companies are going to be seriously looking at this for their real-time collaboration needs.
Yeah. Clint, different type of question here is as we're looking at the global deployment here, Kramer obviously has offices worldwide. You're head of the U.S., but you guys have got significant offices and presence in India, in different countries in Africa, Middle East, and Europe. when you're looking at something like this where you're trying to satisfy it and serve a global audience, how do you do that? I guess the best way to ask this is because different regulations and different needs, not just electrical, but also there are different standards in different parts of the world. So is it something where you're working with your local integrators and your local dealers and getting that information back from them?
So absolutely, it's a huge challenge for a manufacturer. It's the panacea for a manufacturer with a worldwide footprint to be able to do that effectively. But there are challenges, not the least of which is currency exchange. An integrator in the United States who might have a footprint all around the world says, hey, I want a price for this and I'm going to sell it in these countries. And it's like, okay, well, your US price is this. And well, what happens when I sell it in that country or that country? Well, let's worry about the exchange rate that day. It'll be the equivalent of that. But then that gets kind of, challenging and difficult and messy, but we all want that. And that's the main objective. And so we're constantly trying to tighten that up. You look at an organization like PS&I too, and PS&I is, that's kind of their objective is, maybe somebody in the United States is selling to a company that has a global footprint, but they can't send a person on a plane to these other countries. So they have partners, and then they're kind of sharing best practices to get a global kind of company approach from a bunch of independent integrators.
Yeah, absolutely. Heather, we'll end up with you on this one. When it comes to kind of a hardware as a service model, when you're talking with your clients, is this as Dawn mentioned, it might be easier for larger organizations to understand and wrap their head around the as a service model because they're already in a contract, right? It's operational expenses when it comes to servers and when it comes to voice systems and things of that nature. But smaller companies, they're used to buying things and then having them, right? And then in 7 years or in 10 years, they do a refresh and they buy the thing again. How do you educate, maybe smaller companies on this as a service and the benefits of it?
Good question. I think that it would definitely it's a different approach. So for new companies, I think that, not even new companies, I think that it's really it's the way that you present it. I think so as long as integrators like us had a solid understanding about how to present it, and maybe it's someone like Staring that needs to connect with integrators to teach them how to present that. We're all comfortable with there's many tools out there, something like D-Tools that does the same thing over and over again. So it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So we'd have to change the way that we present that and propose that to the client. And then hopefully you hit someone like Dawn and her company that would say, great, I love this idea because I could do this under a different umbrella than capital improvement. And maybe it's a way that you show both so that you start to give businesses more options, which means that there's more than one avenue to get that funding. It's a really interesting concept, but I do think that for integrators, there'd have to be some connection with a company like Staring to teach almost, if you will, on how to present that forward.
That makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
And if I can just jump in there, that's something, it's August now. It doesn't feel like it in 2020, but it is August now. And for certain companies in certain industries, we're coming up on the end of our fiscal year. And suddenly there's 1 million projects that need to be funded this year. And all we're doing these days for the past month, I've been juggling pots of money. Well, am I paying for that out of this pot of money or that pot of money? Do we have any money left in this pot of money because we need to get that room done? What about that pot of money? So when you're talking in an organization that has this system, has this crazy, different budget centers and different, division of who's paying for what, that becomes really, really powerful for your end user. So integrators, if you have a chance to offer something like this, August and September, sort of towards the end of the fiscal year, actually August through the end of the actual calendar year, you might find you'll be able to do a whole bunch more rooms with the money that you have available in operational expenses. And it's go Staring, go Midwich. That's all I can say.
You know what I heard there is that Dawn has buckets of money. That's all I heard there.
No, the problem is Dawn is running out of buckets of money.
Thanks so much for watching this first segment of AV Week. To check out the rest of the episode for free, click on the link below or go by the website, avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv.